Welcome to EmComm Solutions. Jake here. If you haven't heard already, the Army has announced that they're going to be shifting from radios to smartphone-like devices. Yeah, you heard it. And the article that was published by Defense Scoop on April 22nd, 2025 has created a lot of conversation on the internet, and we're going to dive into it a little bit. So what if the soldiers do ditch their bulky radios for sleek smartphone-like devices? The U.S. Army is making a bold move in its Next Generation Command and Control Initiative, or NGC2. The Army's plan to replace radios at the tactical edge, battalions and below, with end-user devices, which in essence are just smartphones, but a lot of times in that case they're not using like SIM cards or cellular data and stuff like that. They're just using the device for its capabilities under the NGC2. Relevance to emergency communications. If you're not familiar, new to the channel, we talk a lot about emergency communications with a big focus on mesh communications, covering everything from Meshtastic, Beartooth Mark IIs, Doodle Labs Mesh Rider Series, Gotenna, and the new Chaonic 1S from BChat Systems, and pretty much everything in between. So that's why we're going to be talking about some of this today. So obviously with this announcement, it's just going to show that even the US military has realized that mesh communications can be very useful in all kinds of situations. Of course, for the military, more of a tactical application. So it's reliable and efficient. Now, there is some concerns. We'll address some of those concerns about, the military loves to use PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency for their communications plan. So if they only have one type of device, what happens to that PACE plan? So we'll see as more announcements come out in the future. There's a lot that hasn't been announced as of yet about how exactly this is going to look and what type of mesh protocols are they going to be using. And of course, I'm sure some of that will be hidden under, some veils of classifications of some nature. So anyhow, so as mentioned, we'll be covering the Army's plan, a brief history of mesh radio and MANET, mobile ad hoc network systems, and what it means for the future of communication. So a little background on the NGC2 and the end-user devices. So the Army's initiative is to modernize the battlefield communications, focusing on data-centric operations and joint all-domain command and control, JADC2. Key change here is the soldiers at the tactical edge, platoon level and below, will be using end-user devices, smartphone-like devices as we mentioned, instead of the traditional radios. So these end-user devices will support push-to-talk and voice over IP and real-time data sharing, so making them a true mesh network type radio. This will reduce logistical burdens like fewer radios and batteries. Now, each person's obviously, at least as I mentioned here, it sounds like they're each going to have an end-user device, so there's definitely going to be more compared to the radios, because typically a lot of times, because of costs related to radios, they're usually only in key positions within a squad or within a platoon or a company, so on and so forth. So the pucks on trucks is, as I mentioned in the article, is a end-user device connects via a terrestrial mesh network using radio frequencies. The puck on the radio or on the vehicle, these vehicles could be, of course, a aerial vehicle or ground vehicle, and enables a long-haul communications, basically expanding the mesh network. So there's been some testing highlighted in the Project Convergence Capstone 5 in March 2025 at Fort Irwin, California. This was a key experiment to validating the end users' devices in a tactical scenario. So brief history on the Army's use of mesh radios and MANET systems. So MANET, or Mobile Ad Hoc Network, as that acronym stands for, started about 2000 and went through 2010, which introduced dynamic self-forming networks for mobile units. Later in 2010 to present, they adopted the Integrated Tactical Network, ITN. ITN has undergone many iterative developments, incorporating things like low Earth orbit and medium Earth orbit satellite capabilities. That this tech is designed to enhance the data sharing and situational awareness and provide anti-jamming capabilities. The SOF community in 2016 adopted the MPU-5, which gained traction for its abilities to create self-forming, self-healing networks, enabling seamless communications in many different environments. This also provided obviously the ability to share data like video streams and other information that was not really available at the end user level before. However, these systems are quite expensive per unit, and therefore they've typically been reserved for special forces or special operation forces to date. So ManNets, really the key thing there was they allowed for the data sharing. That was a big factor versus just voice communications, so maps, sensor feeds, without a centralized or fixed infrastructure. So this transition to the NGC2, their new initiative, was, really came from the use of the ManNets, which just laid the groundwork for mesh networks evolving into what we're seeing today, the newest initiative, the end user device based with the backup or a part of the system as the pucks on trucks, as they call. So just in my terms would be a node that's fixed to a vehicle of some nature, ground or aerial vehicle, that can be able to expand that network, and then also, if it's a manned vehicle, it could have the interface for the operators of the vehicle. So what are the implications of this shift? So benefits, as we kind of already mentioned here, a lighter load for the soldiers. So an end user device will replace multiple radios, reducing weight and battery needs. Now, it also enhances data sharing, real-time maps, video, sensor data, and improved battlefield decisions. So relevance to this space, well, end user devices mirror, cell phone applications like ATAC and Zillow and others like Meshtastic used in the emergency response space. This shows a convergence between military and civilian tech. This is a big initiative across the U.S. military. The Department of Defense is trying to get with the times, trying to adapt to newer technology faster and get that technology in the hands of the warfighter. So this is a big shift. Here recently that the military has recognized, the nation's recognized the need to implement and adapt to new technology much more rapidly. So challenges here, of course, a lot of people have already brought this up across the whole internet here, but the security. So end user devices typically use some sort of Android-based system, need very robust encryption to prevent hacking and concerns for when you're working in a contested environment. Obviously you have to look into what type of encryption is being used, what type of modulation is being used, to help prevent jamming, interception, detection, all those type of things. One of the benefits of a lot of mesh type radios is they do operate in a fairly low power output. So therefore detection at longer ranges is more difficult. And if they're using something like frequency hopping spread spectrum or some other spectrum that could be less jammable, that's going to be a big benefit to the service members. So reliability, mesh networks can rely on other infrastructure like they mentioned here, pucks on trucks, to be able to expand the range of that network. And obviously if those are taken out or whatever, the key thing here with mesh type networks is they typically are self-healing. So if they lose one, they jump to the next one to keep that network together. So that's a benefit from your typical radio that's just transmitting from one radio to another, or maybe using some sort of repeater. So that's something here. Electronic warfare is definitely going to be a concern. We've already kind of mentioned that with what type of, what are they using to help prevent that from being jammed. We'll see as these systems start to roll out. So there's definitely going to be some skepticism here. Some experts argue radios are still needed for redundancy. And I can agree with that. When we look, the basis of PACE comes from the U.S. military, and I still see probably at least some of the team, whether it's the squad leader or somebody within the team, might have an additional radio for that two-way voice communications, just in case there's an interruption to their system. We'll see as this is implemented, and I'm sure as they start testing devices, they're being rolled out, they'll probably start to make tweaks and changes as they realize, the holes in their PACE plan. So the competitive landscape space, the Army has already said that really they're not looking at one single source for this. So you might have one company building the end user device, other companies developing the application that's going to be used on the device, and then somebody else developing the technology behind the waveform or whatever is being used, what frequencies are being used, what modulations are being used, what protocols are being used. So you may see multiple partnered big defense primes bidding on this. So contracts are supposed to come out this month, or at least be opened up for bidding for following future RFIs and prototyping. So we'll see what happens with this. So what does this all mean for emergency communications? Well, there's a lot of parallels here from like the civilian emergency communication side to what the Army's doing with their shift to the commercial off-the-shelf end-user devices. It aligns with trends within the ham radio communities and other emergency communication enthusiasts, where smartphone applications are being increasingly used. Now currently, like the biggest one that's being used is ATAC, where it can integrate through plugins typically to different types of radios, and it gives you a lot of additional situational awareness, where you really break into the capabilities of an application like ATAC is with radios that are designed to operate in ATAC, like the Beartooth Mark II, the Chaonic 1S, Doodle Labs Mesh Rider series, Gotenna, which I'm not even going to go there, but but anyway, so there's also probably going to be some lessons learned here. A lot of people are prioritizing lightweight, versatile mobility in their systems. Everyone's looking for something more compact, more capable. They're prioritizing lightweight and versatile devices, things that have more than one capability. Traditionally, especially in the civilian sector, we see kind of one type use case and that's it, without additional specialized equipment. They can get very costly. So the introduction of mesh type radios has definitely sparked the interest of communication enthusiasts with the possibilities that it offers you all in one device. So that's very cool. So there definitely should be a balance here though between tech and proven systems. I wouldn't go out today and get rid of, go buy some mesh radios and then get rid of my traditional handheld or mobile radios. You definitely need to keep those to keep a good, robust PACE plan. So operators that haven't explored mesh radio yet, maybe you should take a look at some of the other systems that are out there. I've got plenty of videos about here on my channel, so you can check those out. So to wrap up, the key takeaway you should get from this is modernizing communications requires balancing cutting-edge tech with reliability and lessons from both military and civilian operators. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe to the channel. Check out the links below. I'll provide the links of where I got a lot of this information. Check out our social media, our website, and stay tuned for more emergency communication solution videos. Thanks for watching.